So when the season started out, the Minnesota Wild really weren't looked at to be that really hyped up of a team, to be honest with you, with losing players like Kevin Fiala, and they were acquiring more younger players, so it was going to take longer for those guys to obviously develop. This team wasn't looked at to be much. Many people didn't even have them making the playoffs. However, this quarter of the season, they have really kind of proved that wrong, and they're definitely going on a pretty incredible push. However, I don't think it is real. I'm going to get into all that in this video. But first off, let's take a look at their overall record, starting off with a 38-21-8 record for 84 points, which isn't bad by any means. But in a Central Division, I'm not sure if that's going to be a top three or a playoff type team. However, they are top three in the division. They have 191 goals, 473 goals against. And as I mentioned, they are on a 13-game point streak, being 10-0-3 in their past 13 games played, which is pretty remarkable. It is pretty solid to not have lost in regulation in 13 games, especially when you're playing in a very competitive league like this league alone, where half the teams miss the playoffs. It's a pretty solid league all around. However, you look at the schedule, they're not playing really solid teams in my opinion. So let's take a look at this here. Their last regulation loss was against the Colorado Avalanche, where they lost 3-2. Obviously a very close game. Then you play Dallas, your first game of this 13-game point run. You win 2-1 in a shootout. Obviously, Dallas is bad in extra time, so many people would have taken that game with a grain of salt. Then you play Nashville, which you win 4-3, not a bad win. You play the Los Angeles Kings, you win 2-1. Then you shut out the Blue Jackets 2-0. Then you lose in overtime 2-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Then you win 3-2 against the Blue Jackets in overtime. Then you beat the Islanders 3-2 in a shootout. Then you beat Vancouver 2-1. Then you beat Calgary 3-0. And then you lost to Calgary 1-0 in the shootout. Then you beat Winnipeg 4-2. Beat San Jose 5-2. And then their most recent game, they lost 5-4 in an overtime comeback loss for the Arizona Coyotes there. So, let's go through game by game here. Dallas, team above the playoff line, that's 1. Nashville, team below the playoff line, that's 1. LA, team above the playoff line, that's 2. Columbus, team below the playoff line, that's 2. Toronto, team above the playoff line, that's 3. Columbus, team below the playoff line, that's 4. Islanders, team below the playoff line, that's also 4. Then you have Vancouver below the playoff line, 5. Calgary twice, which means 6. Below the playoff line there. Winnipeg above the playoff line, so 6-5 so far. San Jose below the playoff line. And then Arizona obviously below the playoff line as well. So 7 of those 13 teams, I might have gotten that math mixed up now that I just thought of myself there. 7 of those 13 teams are non-playoff teams. And that is very, very key to what I think is kind of really replenish this run for the Minnesota Wild. And as well as that too, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those games had to take them extra time, and many of them were blown leads as well for this Wild team. So the biggest issue with them through those couple games is you could probably point out that they really can't score. That's their biggest issue. And really, when you look at it, their goaltender has carried them. Philip Gustafsson has been playing some unbelievable hockey as of late. Playing some of the best hockey I've seen from a goalie in, honestly, a while, apart from Linus Ullmark. Gustafsson this season has a 17-8-4 record with a 1.91 goals against average and a .935 save percentage. Obviously, Ottawa Senators fans pretty mad about this deal when you look back at it. Honestly, it's crazy to think how I actually thought that Ottawa was going to win that deal, acquiring Cam Talbot. However, Gustafsson's played really good and has flourished with the Minnesota Wild. But you could also argue, too, they have arguably one of the best blue lines in the league, especially since they acquired John Klingberg, which we'll get into in a little bit. But you can take that with a grain of salt. Boston definitely has a good blue line as well, but Ullmark is still putting up phenomenal stats. But yeah, you also have Marc-Andre Fleury too. I didn't include stats for him. He's been all right. He hasn't been the great Fleury that we've seen in previous years. But obviously, when you get up there in age, obviously you're not going to be the same player, so that pretty much makes sense. yeah, that's really all you got there for the goaltenders. You look at their newly acquired deadline acquisitions. You got Gustav Nyquist there. You got Marcus Johansson. You got Oscar Sundqvist. And then, of course, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you got John Klingberg there as well. I don't mind those deadline moves, but kind of when you look at it, they sort of went for that quantity over quality type deadline moves there where they acquired a lot of forwards that aren't like the best players in the world instead of like maybe one or maybe even two forwards that are, solid, pretty good players. Instead, they just went for, the low price type players, which isn't like a bad thing, I guess, but really not sure if that's what this team needs to be substantially playoff successful. I will say this, though. They got some players coming up in the prospect system that will definitely help them out. Obviously, Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi have obviously already made their crossovers to the NHL. Obviously, a few of those players have struggled. I think Rossi's the only one that has. Boldy's been okay at the NHL level. He has not been bad by any means. Then you also got guys, too, there like Brock Faber, Liam Ogren. You got some other guys down there in that system. We'll definitely see when those guys come up into the lineup. Hopefully they'll provide some more offense for this team. But that's kind of really where they're struggling, if I'm being honest. They do have offensive players. You got Kirill Kaprizov, who is still playing pretty good, but isn't crazy good like he was last season, with 39 goals, 35 assists for 74 points in 65 games played. Kaprizov, obviously an amazing player. There was those rumors of whether or not he was going to have to stay in Russia, but obviously those rumors have been killed. Then you got Matt Zuccarello there, too, who is likely to be argued as one of Kaprizov's fixed products because, honestly, he's one of those type of players that can make any player around him better, and that goes to show the value around a guy like him. Zuccarello, 21 goals, 40 assists for 61 points in 64 games played. Zuccarello, obviously a player that was argued to be way out of his prime, but obviously is playing pretty solid with the Wild. Then you got Joel Eriksson Ek there too, 22 goals, 27 assists for 49 points in 66 games played. Obviously a pretty solid two-way type center. Definitely a good addition there for the Wild. And then as well as that too, he's signed to that hefty contract, so even if he's bad for the next couple of years, he's probably here to stay. You got Matt Boldy there, as well as I said, he's obviously transitioned pretty well to the NHL. And I actually thought that Rossi would be better. You look at previous draft mocks in the early days of this channel, I had Rossi be one of the better prospects. However, nope, Boldy's been pretty solid. 18 goals, 26 assists for 44 points in 66 games played. And then to wrap out that top five, you have Jared Spurgeon with 10 goals, 19 assists for 29 points in 66 games played. So, going back to my question, are they frauds or not? To be honest with you, as of now, I'm going to say yes. And I've been saying this kind of for a while now. It's not because I hate the team. It's honestly because of really what I honestly believe. And the two biggest factors are obviously the 13-game point streak. It's being blown out of proportion because obviously, a lot of those teams that they're playing, they're below the playoff line and they're barely beating them at that. You don't see many games here where it's like a commanding win, apart from I guess 5-2 against San Jose and then the shutouts against Columbus and Calgary. But apart from that, they really haven't been dominant in those stretches. Really, all it's been is Philip Gustafsson. Obviously, I got to give another shout out to him. He's been phenomenal as a goalie for the Wild this season. Then you got Kirill Kaprizov, too, who I think I brought up in videos saying that without Kaprizov, this team is not even a playoff team. They're barely a 500 team at best, in my honest opinion, without Kaprizov. So, yeah, there's a lot of factors to go in there. But as I mentioned, they definitely have a lot of young players that are going to rise up in this lineup and probably make some key impacts, maybe even towards the end of this season, if not definitely next season. The future's definitely bright for this team. They'll definitely have some good players on the come up, but I can't say right now that they'll do much in the playoffs. Which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but I did want to end this on a good note. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to go leave a like. Make sure to go hit that subscribe button down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah, going to try and make some more videos. It's been a struggle lately. Playoffs are rounding up for my high school league. So, yeah, hopefully we'll be making some more content. But, yeah, thank you all for watching. See you guys next video. Adios.